is health? Is it the way that we look, or is it more complex than that? Generally, an individual's health depends on two things: determinants, factors that influence health, and interventions, actions taken to improve health. But what exactly are these determinants? Well, let me give you an example. A boy growing up on a farm would have drastically different determinants than a boy growing up in the city. And a girl whose family could afford to buy nutritious groceries each week would have different determinants than a family who bought fast food. In these two examples, there are circumstances in which determinants are either positively or negatively affecting these common measures of health. Hopefully, now we're beginning to understand health determinants. Using the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare report, we will now move on to describing how health determinants influence behaviours by organising them into three key groups: social determinants, biomedical determinants, and behavioural determinants. Firstly, social determinants of health. The World Health Organization describes social determinants as the circumstances in which people grow, live, work and age, and the systems put in place to deal with illness. The key social determinants of health include the socio-economic position, the income and occupation of the individual, early life, negative childhood experiences and developmental issues, social exclusion such as discrimination and isolation, and the issue of housing and homelessness. According to the World Health Organization, social inequalities and disadvantages are the main reasons for unfair and avoidable differences in health outcomes and life expectancy across groups in society. Moving on to biomedical determinants of health. Biomedical risk factors are bodily states that have an impact on a person's risk of disease. The key biomedical determinants of health include high blood pressure, hypertension, abnormal blood lipids like high cholesterol, impaired glucose regulation like type 2 diabetes, and an individual having multiple biomedical risk factors. Biomedical risk factors can have an interactive or cumulative effect on disease risk. Multiple risk factors can increase the risk of disease, lead to earlier disease onset, increase severity, and complicate treatment. Thirdly, behavioural determinants of health. The Australian Institute of Health and Welfare states that a person's health can be influenced by health behaviours that are part of their individual lifestyle. The key behavioural determinants of health include tobacco use, alcohol consumption, physical activity or lack of, diet, use of illicit drugs, and sexual practices. According to the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, population groups and social setting can have a major effect on the different health behaviours that individuals engage in, whether that be positive or negative. Still with me? Great. Let us reverse recap. We've just finished discussing the three key determinants of health: social, biomedical, and behavioural. These three groups were discussed to condense and organise the huge spectrum of determinants that affect our everyday behaviours, which gave context to the definition that determinants are factors that influence an individual's health, along with interventions, which is generally what an individual's health depends on. And we showed this figure following our two examples to explain how determinants can positively or negatively affect our common measures of health. This concludes our presentation on the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare's Determinants of Health. Thank you.